Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt, here today to present the new moon of November 15th, 2020. So we're just going to discuss our new beginnings, and I'll add in some asteroids, and I'll do as I normally do. We'll start very simple. I'll add in the trans-Neptunians, and then I'll move on and add in the asteroids. So before I get to the chart, I always want to take a moment in gratitude for all of my subscribers, whether it's to this channel, to the newsletter, or to my website. I appreciate every single one of you, and most importantly, I do love hearing from you. So thank you for all the comments. I'm still at a place where we're very small, so I can definitely get back to everybody. With that said, before we begin, let's just look at the new chart. We're going to try to look for a couple of different things. We are a new chart also looking at not just a new moon, so we have the new moon predictions, but also looks like we have a new government. So let's proceed and see if that doesn't show up in this chart. So with that said, let's move to the charts themselves. So we see here before us the new moon just with the planets. There's nothing else in there. Chiron is there, but as far as the trans-Neptunians are not. We'll put them in also at a later time. I just want to look simply at this part of the chart, okay? And I want to note here that we do have a part of fortune, part of spirit, however you want to look at it, right here, smack on that ascendant, okay? So it does look like, as of November 15th, there is a kind of a good feeling about what's going on. It also looks like, with the 23-degree Scorpion moon and sun down here at the IC, directing our thought here, it really is a place where it's like people are anxious or even depressed or thinking the worst, but this will move more than 4 degrees during this time, and it will cross to what I feel is a much more peaceful house and a house of healing. So we're not in that healing yet as we approach this new moon. So in general, one of the things I want people to make note of, you're going to get information or news, but a couple of things. First of all, it may not be as bad as you think. Okay, so we're all apt to look at things from the worst perspective right now. So that's this moon and sun being in the house of communication. I mean, Mercury's here also, so we are being hit with a lot of news. But what happens when the moon and the sun are in this house is this idea that what we're feeling emotionally or what we're being driven by daily and hourly is not it doesn't feel right, or something just isn't right with it. The other thing that I think people will be going through is the idea of delays, that you wanted something resolved immediately and now you have to wait for it. And so that is going to be thematic, not just in terms of politics, because I think that that's going on in the skies politically, but I'm talking about each of us as individuals, because though the world is going through a whole lot, and yes, we just did have an election and it did affect all of us. And I think that the reality of that and the effects of things like that are things that we should be more aware of. Pluto, right here, and Jupiter, okay? But Pluto specifically is only 20 minutes past the Aries point. So it still very much has an effect on the world at large. So yes, they probably, well, what did somebody say? They were dancing in the streets in Paris and in London when Biden was announced as the president. Yeah. The transformations that are going on, that's the funny thing, and that's the thing it's kind of hard to for some people to understand. and some politicians as well, I might add, that we don't live in a vacuum no more. That we really are a world, global, we do look out for each other. It has gone to that. I'm happy to say. I for one, think the world is a small place, and we should acknowledge that. But when we will, these things that happen here at this Aries point, this is going to make us very aware. The other thing about the Jupiter Pluto, okay, and Saturn being there, is that we're going to have to work very hard to be able to get the good feeling and to be able to express ourselves. And I think they're talking about the fact that we're still restricted by the pandemic. That, people might be really happy about things, but I think that what people are really going to be happy about, look at the sextiles, just look at the blue here. Look at all these trines to the midheaven. The future depends on our ability to be disciplined and to restrict ourselves in a way that's still healing and yet still transformational. So we're still transforming ourselves, if you will. Look at the sextiles. The sun and the moon are telling us that we're going to have opportunities to do that. I think that that's a really important thing to understand. The sextile provides opportunities for that healing and that transformation. And even the discipline aspect is in there. So there are some, I want to say, really positive aspects going on. Now, what's really interesting is Neptune hasn't been a good player in all of this. As a matter of fact, Neptune has really helped delude the situation. And there's where all our disinformation comes in. Somebody pointed out this morning on one of the videos I was listening to about how our disinformation age is so very clearly Pisces, Neptune. Oh, it really is. I mean, disinformation is huge. And I do think it's actually something that's going to be curtailed in days to come. But what's interesting is the sextiles here are also opportunities for us to look at that and to understand that perhaps, and it is retrograde, that, and this is other people, that in our relations and in our situations in life, that other people, and again, when I say the word delusion and when I use these terms, I don't want you to think that I'm talking bad, evil, no. Sometimes people are self-deluded. There's no other way to put it. Self-delusion is a real thing. How much are other people able to either help us cope with, deal with, or shine that mirror so that we get that message? Okay. I just really just look at all that blue. And in these aspects, the blues are the easier energies. Okay. Now, what worries me about an easy energy to Neptune, although it's only sextiles to Pluto and to Jupiter, so not to Saturn and not to Sun and Moon. Okay. So it's up here. Oh, I lie. There is trines to Sun and Moon. Sure, Colleen. There are trines here. The thing that worries about the sextiles and the trines to Neptune is that it is easy energy. So if somebody lies, somebody else will go along with it. That's what happens when you're dealing with a trine. It's when some misinformation or disinformation, because I really think it's not misinformation, wasn't done by mistake. It was done on purpose. We have to really be wary of what we're listening to. With the blue, I think people who are more enlightened or more ascended, what I like to refer to as the light workers, or people that are more interested in what a light worker is, they're more likely to look at the Neptune period as an opportunity to maybe lift a veil and understand in greater detail those disillusions. But if it's somebody who might be of a different evolution level, they may continue being deluded by other people to the point where they're buying into somebody else's coffee and therefore deluding themselves. So I do want to point that out. Now let's get to some of the more difficult aspects. Here is the anger. Yikes, right? Here is the anger. And I want to point that out because that anger is opposing Venus, okay, which is also in square. So basically, it's like somebody's using money or economy, or we're going to be finding things out about money and the economy. I think more troublesome things. Okay, so let's go back to politics. I hate doing this, but they're doing their stuff right out in the world stage. They're withholding money out of anger, out of spite, that really belongs to everybody. Eighth house, it's combined resources. It's not resources that belong to an individual, but resources that belong to many individuals. Now realize that whatever I'm talking about on the world stage could also be affecting you on a more individual private level. So I use politics as an example, but remember that this is what's in the skies right now. And there's a lot of people that are probably listening to this that are not considered political, that we wouldn't consider political people. I have a lot of friends that are not political people, although very happy about the turnout of the election, ironically. But you know, there's people that just are not motivated by such things. However, this could be something that affects them because it is their tax dollar, so who knows. But look at this: anger, money, resentment, money. Okay? Now, here's anger, transformation. See, this is something I want to talk about in terms of life lessons. You look at what's going on in the sky, as above, so below. It's a saying of a card. It's a real thing, okay? So if you're somebody who is really angry about the things that are going on, the transformations, it doesn't go as well for you, okay? If you're resisting, if you're not surrendering to what's going on, you're going to suffer more. And I'm going to be honest with you. That old saying about good things come to those who wait could not be more true right now. That if we're willing, as I've been saying for how many videos now, if we're willing to take our time and cross our T's and dot our I's, we'll be okay. But if we shortcut, hot dog, and do all the other things that people try to do to one up one on the other person, I'm fearful that it will backfire on you. And what tells me that is Mars and Pluto. That's a dynamic energy right there. And the interesting thing is, and I'm speaking as somebody who has a very strong knowledge of squares, they do create miracles. Okay, again, listening to a lot of videos, somebody pointed out that they thought there'd be a blue wave and they were kind of upset about some of the senators that made it back in and how much they're still sticking up for the present president, not the elect. And I got to be honest with you, they are the people that made it in. If they shortcutted in any way, if they cheated the American people in any way, had they not made their elections, or if they just walked away when they had the opportunity, then I don't know that the what's coming to them would have been as harsh. Let's just put it that way, if at all, okay? So realize that people that keep bucking, keep pushing. Anyone who does that right now, I feel sorry for you ultimately, because I don't think that you're going to do yourselves any favors in the big pictures. And I do think that if there is justice to be paid, I believe in the supreme being. I believe in the supreme justice. And I believe in insta karma. And I know that someone like Trump, because people say, well, they'll use Trump as because he'll never have to pay for anything. Isn't he not paying now? At this point in his life, what he's paying could kill him. Let's be honest. Because he's just not used to it. Those of us who are very experienced with the square energy, I speak from experience. I have tons of it in my chart. You know, you kind of learn a lot, and you have a lot of fortitude, and you use that fortitude, and with that fortitude, you stick around long enough to see the miracles. So I really want to, there's a little lesson. I know a little jump off the chart, but I really wanted to talk about that. Okay, I really feel that this Mars in Aries is a very troublesome concept right now, as it is squaring the zeitgeist, which is the outer planets that are lining up. Or as somebody said who's not an astrologer, the ocean we swim in. Okay, which is interesting because all things take place in an environment or in an ocean, and yes, the outer planets create that for us. The other things that I wanted to look at here that I thought were of real importance is I want you to look at the nodes, okay, Sagittarius and Gemini, okay. Gemini is the north node, Sagittarius being the south node. I'm not really caring about which north and south right now because, again, remember, I'm a dial reader, which we'll get to in a minute. And that just means to me that they're sitting in the same place. But guess what they're sitting really close to here? Bing, 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 bing. This program doesn't put the nodes in their aspects. Let me do it for you. That is a pretty close square, okay? On any system, they would pick that up because there are systems that really don't go beyond 2.5 degrees of orb. Even here, you'd have to say, whoa, because it's actually less than 2 degrees. Or no, it's 2 degrees. Yeah, it's less than 2 degrees. So basically, your this particular square is really interesting, and it's a kind of square that wants me to go tell you, watch who you say what to. Watch who you're talking to, watch what you're depending on, and watch who you're trusting. It's also a reminder of the little speech I just gave about timing. It's not going to be there with Neptune in square to everything because of the sensitivity, the things being not clear, the when you're very sensitive, there's a lot of reactionary type. So a lot of reactionary type emotions. So dealing with other people is kind of tough anyway. Isn't it nice that we're in a pandemic? Sometimes I think it is. The Lord works in mysterious ways. I think of all these sayings all the time and how much they apply to life and what's going on. They are archetypal symbols as much as the astrology or the tarot. So the last and final thing that I want to talk about on this chart before I jump to the other chart and then onto the dial is I do want to point out that Uranus at 8 degrees of Taurus does trine the ascendant. In other words, change is okay with a lot of people, okay? At least the directions of which they're going, whether it be that they're being allowed to do more during the pandemic, whether they're happier about the change of government, regardless. Oh, change of friends? I just had to throw that in there, that node square to Neptune. Timing, everything's off with that. So it's an interesting and very strong energy right now. The other thing is that the Uranus is also in opposition to Mercury, just like Mars is in opposition to Venus. And I should show you this, even though it's retrograde, because I do want to point that out. But look at this. There he is. So what does that tell us? Especially because Mercury is in the third house. It's in a house that it actually does well in, except, and this is a bigger chart, so it does a little bit better. But if I were reading this on a personal level, realize that is a lot of, here we go again, dark thoughts. That's dark thoughts. So I think that people are going to be moody and unpredictable in the next month because of the opposition of the Mercury to Uranus. It also means, just as I went on before, that whole thing about people think, oh, this is terrible, awful, and horrible. You're going to find out it's better than you thought. By the same token, people that are going ray, rah, roo, may not be ray, rah, rooing down the road. I'm just saying, because of Uranus opposing Mercury. do we really know what's going on right now? I mean, again, even in our own lives, take this to your own life, okay? Bring it to that level and ask yourself, about the funk you've been in lately. Ask yourself about the struggle that you might be having with transforming what's going on in your life right now with who you are or where you want to be. And these are some of the things that'll come up in the next month, 6 weeks. Because these things roll in and they roll out. So what we see here has already been going on. I'm kind of glad I waited. I had a suspicion that we were going to be changing government in spite of many things, which we'll be finding out later. I think that, I knew it because I saw it in my own personal astrology. I knew that it was saying that. And I kind of wanted to wait until that happened so that I can once again point out to you how the charts are in effect prior to the actual date when they're supposed to take effect. I just always like for people to know that. So let's move to the next chart, okay? Oh, let's go to this. Let's do this. Oh, no, it's here. Here it is. Okay, let's put the, no, I think it's in here. I don't want to put the asteroids in. Once they go in, it's craziness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and I'm even going to put these ascendants in here. Okay, these are other ascendants. I'm not going to put those in or those. I don't want to get too crazy. The ones I work with, I will put in. I'm just making sure there's not something else I work with here. Well, I do work a little bit with some of that, but I'm not going to get into that. It gets a little too intense. Here, I threw in the trans-Neptunians, and I threw in a couple of extra ascendants. And isn't it interesting? And the reason, there's always a reason for everything. But let's look at this Saturn, who has just been joined. Again, remember when something is very close, within 2.5 degrees, every form of astrology picks it up. Well, here we have a conjunction that is 1 degree, less than 1 degree apart. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, less than 1 degree. Okay. So what was it, 58 minutes. But in any event, it really kind of stresses how what's really going on or what we're looking at are different restrictions, disciplines, people who are able to discipline themselves. Our form of expression is going to do better if we keep a clamper on things, if we stay more organized and more disciplined. Okay, I really needed to see that. Now let's go look at some of the other stuff. So as we add in some of these other points, we now can look at, let's look at this, Admetus, which is in direct square with both the ascendant and descendant. Now, interestingly, remember that the Neptune can also be sickness, okay? So here's sickness. Now, Neptune is associated with those illnesses. And nose meaning, do you know who's sick? Now, when you're dealing with Admetus to ascendant, descendant, you are dealing with delays and obstacles in your connections and in moving forward, because that's the future. But Admetus, and it's in retrograde, has a deeper meaning to it besides blockage, delays. People always think of it as more of a negative thing. I don't. I actually have it in an interesting place in my chart, but I understand that it really is about getting to the bottom of things too. It is about understanding something so entirely. And that's one of the reasons why delays happen. Sometimes we don't have a full picture. We want to burst on there, but we don't. Do we have a full picture here? And Admetus reminds us that we really need to make sure that we get to the bottom of things. And it is, like I say, it's direct square. I mean, here we go again with 2 degrees to 2 degrees, 18 minutes. I really want to point out to anybody who is very, very interested in astrology, the dynamics of when something in astrology is that close. The reality is that kind of astrology, the really close kind of astrology, works really well in individual charts, the charts of people. People who study mundane charts, bigger charts, Hellenistic type astrology, they look at ages. So they tend to go out 10 and even 15 degrees on things. And if you're looking at groups of things, which we are too here, because obviously I'm not talking about your chart specifically or my chart specifically, although wouldn't it be nice to lay one on the other? This can be applied in both ways. So when you look at a chart such as what we're looking at here, we want to make sure that where does our personal planets fall? And so like the first thing I'd say is put your sun in here. Put your ascendant midheaven, if you know them, in there. Put your moon in there. Put your nodes in there. And I think it's more wow and eye-opening in terms of things that you can expect as an individual. So as I run into again, wow, what a square. I mean, it's really like, wow. It also then, here we go, is in opposition to the sun and moon. Oh, we're not going to be happy about these delays. And you say to yourself, but it's 2 degrees of Gemini. Remember we said about 10 degrees on the angles, number one. Number two, if anything is on an angle, it's an aspect to other angles, regardless of the degree points. And usually, again, you're going 10 degrees. So a much wider orb. That works that way, whether you're looking at a mundane chart or if you're looking, or an event chart, or if you're looking at a person. So I want to point that out. Just, astrology lessons where I can. So just like kind of moving on here, Uranus here is going to be a real factor when we start the new cycles, because again, we really always have resistance to change. That's normal. There are people I know in my personal life just cannot deal with change well. I personally always initiate it, and then maybe I'm not so good about it when I'm going through it, but maybe because of my own personal signs and energy, I get it, you see. I get it. Well, that Uranus is not only in opposition to Mercury, which we've already discussed here in the third house, but look how big this third house got. But we also have Apollonia, which is business, which is multiple things, more than one, which is expansion. So we're not going to be able to expand. There's going to be a lot of struggle there. I think we are expanding. See, that's where the delusion comes in. I think we're more successful than we realize. I think that that's what this is about. I think that we are more successful than we acknowledge. And there we go with that. We don't really know what's going on until we get out of here. Until that Neptune is gone. And the other thing that which is ironic, because Poseidon is also trining Neptune, which is interesting. But Neptune is in opposition to Uranus. Okay? There also is a sextile between, although again, here we go, sort of wide, the Taurus to the, or actually it's, I'm sorry, it's a different kind of an aspect. I don't think it is a sextile. But in any event, there is an energy from that Taurus to that Neptune, okay? But not something strong, okay? But I'm going to be honest with you, one plays into the other. So really doesn't matter how strong or weak it is if people are afraid of change. If change makes lack of clarity, then it's interesting. The other thing that's interesting is Poseidon and Uranus being in opposition to each other could also be freedom in terms of saying things, or actually it'd be more Mercury. Well, no, not really, because Poseidon's also the media and publications and sometimes propaganda. So here we go with Uranus and propaganda. What do we believe, what don't we believe is really important right now. And I don't think people understand the levity of what that concept of not truth. Let's go there. I don't want to say lies, but let's go with disinformation and untruth. That's going to be a bigger deal in just a very short period of time because of the new age. The new age, that's not going to be okay. It's the best way I can put it. It's just not going to be okay. There's going to be a lot of work done to find out what is truth and the maintaining and staying on the road of real truth. I'm going to move on, okay, because I could keep going on and on. Zeus is with Venus, so, and it's in the second house, which is, there's this real need for money. I'm hoping that it bodes well. I think a lot of anger is coming from the money. Zeus being an aspect also with that Aries, that opposition of Zeus to Mars. Zeus and Mars are both kind of restless, agitated, aggressive energies. And to have them battle, I would say direct your energy, use the energies in a really positive way, restraint, remember discipline, restraint, and by the way, Pluto and Zeus are really coming to a real square. So again, be restrained about things. You don't really know what this is all going to mean right now, and we don't want to jump conclusions, and we don't want to blame our neighbors for things if in the end we're going to find out it was something stupid. Okay? I'm just saying. Let's look at the other chart, which is where I'm going to do the dial. And much, much fuller chart. Look at, I like to do asteroids on this, so let's look at that. So as we look at these asteroids, we have, Vesta sitting right here. Here, I talk about this, how we're living this stuff, even though beforehand. What is the number one question that's been happening, particularly in the news or with regards to news cycles, is where's the president? Not only is he not conceding, we're not seeing or hearing from him, which might be a good thing. I'm just saying, isn't that interesting? Because that's what that means to have Sphinx there. But it also means that in your own personal life, there might be missing people. There might be people who are not showing up for whatever. So just pay attention to that. That might be interesting. One of the areas it's talking about is it might be during meals or meal time, or it could have to do with parent child type things. Because look at this right here. Ceres, Demeter, the two moms on the descendant. So, but there's also that element of taking care of and caretaking. That whole world of caretaking has taken on a new realm with the pandemic. So a lot of interesting stuff there on that descendant. But I want to point out something else here. The asteroid Adamite is also sitting there. And look at this, two of them. We're going to also be delayed because of other people. And here we go. Again, I don't want to go back to politics, but is the present government trying to already withhold money and stop the next government from coming in? Oh, yeah. So that's there. There's your Adamite. And what I love about this is that things are not exactly the way you think they are. And it's interesting because I'm really affected by that energy right now, too. And I have to say that a lot of things aren't. But it's funny how even when they're not, because there's always a degree of intuition with Pythia, I still feel like, oh yeah, of course, now it's da-da-da-da, So there is a level of understanding why things are not exactly the way I thought they were. As a matter of fact, there's like that Eos. Now, Eos is not a factor on the, Pythia is not a factor here. It's right on the edge, but it's not a factor. But I want to point it out because it is an energy that I've been experiencing. It's also very close to the Ecuador, one of the Ecuadorian ascendants, okay? So there is an element of that going on, and I know that I felt it in my own life, so I had to share it. The big thing I wanted to talk about at this angle is Cassandra, which is sitting right with, this is a really nice tight orb here, Adamitas. How many of us are getting the advice to wait? How many people are being told to just wait? Here we go with the election again. Okay, so everything is about waiting. But again, it's advice. Okay? But you also have to ask yourself, because that Cassandra's there, are people listening to what's going on? That's the other question you have when you have that. So you have a Cassandra sun, or an Adamitas Cassandra to the sun moon, to Adamite. What are we being? listen, slow down. That might have to do with the pandemic as well. Remember the very, very close connections of the nodes to Neptune. So I wanted to talk about those things just briefly, looking here. One of the things, and it's already come up again, I hate to go back to politics, but it has already come up, the idea of people that have enabled other people. Hebe, Sappho, Juno. Basically partners in other words, allowing partners to get away with things or being of service to people because they're part of the team. Okay. It's really interesting because, that is clique-ish. I'm going to use that word, clique-ish. Think about high school. It's like you're in the in crowd or you're a geek or you're, it's not just tribalism. It goes even more, less evolved kind of thinking. Well, it's really interesting because that's all in there. And it's interesting that AOC has said that we should take names of what's going on and who the enablers are. So, but realize again, I want to bring that big picture into your life. And how does this play out? Are we enabling people? Are people enabling their parents or their children? Are you enabling your child if you're allowing your child to break rules or not follow what they're supposed to do? Moms, dads. So it's just something to think about. These are questions I'm going to throw out. Like I said, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. I can tell you that just from the ascendant, but also from what's showing up down here, things at 27 can go all the way back to 17, okay? Well, everything stops after 18, so there isn't anything else beyond bonding that we really need to talk about. Chaos is an issue, but it's outside of the realm here, but yet it's Eos for chaos is squaring the midheaven anyway. I'm going to also point out that the Selena up here doesn't help that that either. Okay, Eris usually causes it, but Eris is right now squaring Pluto. So of course we're still having a lot of chaos because she's down in here somewhere. So, oh no, actually, yeah. Or is it in Aries? I'm just looking to see if she's even on here. I don't have her on here. But she's in Aries. She's playing a role in this. She is another, we work with a lot of different named things, and she's just another one of them. So chaos looms strongly in the chart. So, we have to consider that in everything. That, we're dealing, oh, here she is, right here. I knew somewhere up here. I believe that's her. So 2343. She's retrograde right now. They move very slowly, so she'll stay. Pluto will move on. That's how that works. But chaos is necessary or we wouldn't find the problems. Always remember that. Chaos is necessary or we wouldn't be able to see how bad things are. That's really important. So I've been talking so long. I want to move on, as I always do, to the dial, because part of what I like to do in astrology is talk about all the different things I can get out of these software programs. Next time I meet with you, I will be having another kind of software that I want to look at. So I'm going to pick out something interesting to look at chart-wise, and we're going to look at even more different astrology. I wanted to do it today, but it's just been so crazy lately that I do promise I will have it by next week. I was going to try, but it didn't work. So I want to talk about a couple of things here. I want to talk about, this is the Aries point, and look how important what's going on is. Volcanus, midheaven. Pressure about the future. Wow. Isn't that going on for real? Yeah. So I wanted to look at that, those midpoints, things that are happening around here. I got to be honest with you. There could be a lot of risk taking, but I really have to say that it is countered by balance here, or boundaries, I should say boundaries, where we really can't let people get away with things. And that includes our own children, moms, because remember, how that all turned out. So if I go to 7.5 degrees here, I'm still getting Sirius in this picture, or Demeter, I'm sorry. So again, it's a warning to moms, and it's also a warning to children with regards to parents. Watch allowing people to break rules that you know they shouldn't be breaking. I'm thinking mostly about that pandemic, because that's how people die. So be aware of that. Don't enable bad behavior. Now, what I love about this, and I'll go exactly to it, but look at this. Sun, moon, moon node, sun node. Okay, I saw that before. That's the real one. Look at that Zeus, Jupiter. I really do want to, Venus, Jupiter. This is really the beginning of our healing, and it is the beginning of things getting better. I am not going to delude you and tell you that things are going to be instantly better, and that all of the darkness that's have occurred with the divisiveness of the last 4 years and all that other garbage is going to go. No, because all that stuff was supposed to happen, and so it's been very rough for the last 4 years because of the president. That may be true, but it was all there to begin with, or he wouldn't have been able to pull it out from under the rocks. So realize that that doesn't go away. There are some things that will have to be dealt with, but we are on the road to healing with all of those really, really wonderful energies. I think we're going to see a really wonderful new regime, if you will. And not just in government, but for you and I as well. And it might just be that we're learning to overcome the pandemic. So let me come back. And I'm only coming back to once again saying thank you for sharing your time with me. I hope this was helpful. I really hope that it was a positive shot for you. And I just want you to know that, as always, I wish you only happy readings.